Broadcasting to the world, this is On Call with Chad McCall. In our show, we bring you inspiration, strategies, and insights on how to start, grow, and scale your business.
It's drastically changed my life.
The show is so informative, I just love it. It's honest. It's helped me grow as a person.
Real talk about life, lifestyle, society, and living limitless. Learning from the top influencers across the world, along with industry experts, authorities for you to live your greatest life. It's time to level up.
I'm ready.
I'm ready.
I'm ready.
Here's your host, best-selling author and mentor, Chad McCall.
Hello, everyone. Today is a great sunny day here in Arizona, and I applaud you business owners, entrepreneurs, investors, side hustlers, and anyone that's striving for more in life and in business. And I thank you for being here, listening to me have some amazing conversations with influencers, experts, and leaders from industries all over. So in every episode, my goal is to bring value to your life and your business. So I hope you're taking notes today. There's always something in these discussions for everyone. Today, I'm calling a two-time New York Times bestselling author. He's built 5 multi-million-dollar companies, appeared in like 8 movies. Maybe you've seen that movie called The Secret or something. You'll know who I'm talking about. He's currently the CEO of Neurogym, where John studies, trains, and teaches secrets that allow the brain to unleash the full potential and maximize your results. So if you haven't guessed who I'm going to be calling, hang tight while I give John Assaraf a call.
Hello.
John.
Hey, Chad. How are you?
I'm doing great. How are you today?
Doing amazing.
Thank you so much for squeezing in some time. I've told people I was going to be calling you today, and they've flooded me with questions and things. But I just wanted to ask you some things that I finally wanted to ask you about business and life in 2020. Do you have a little bit of time for me?
Let's do it.
Tell me about 2020 and how you've seen it affecting all your friends and colleagues and business owners and things you're talking to right now, because we're in unprecedented times. And I just wanted to see what you're hearing on the front lines.
Sure. There's actually 2 camps that people are falling into. And there are the people who are totally stressed out. They're uncertain. They're feeling fearful because there's so much unpredictability. And there's a real threat out there right now called coronavirus, and how it'll affect their health, their life, their income, their family, their business. And a lot of people are just totally scared and don't know what to do. And there's another group of people that I know, and that is the ones who are totally in awareness of what is happening, but they happen to be really, really good adaptationists. And so they're actually taking the situation right now, and they're finding the opportunities to actually increase their income, increase their wealth, position themselves and their companies for greater success. And that's because they know how to focus their mindset and manage their emotions. And a lot of people right now just have never had that kind of real training. And there's a saying in the neuroscience field that I play in, and the neuropsychology field, is that you will always revert back to your highest level of training under stress. So you'll always revert back or fall back to your highest level of training under stress. And right now it's very, very stressful. So most people have never been trained to deal with all of the different things that are happening right now.
Well, that's so interesting you mentioned that people revert back to their highest level of training. What about so many entrepreneurs and business owners and people of my listeners are right now just, out there, making it, getting started or thinking about starting something new. They haven't been trained a lot of times. What do those people do?
Well, I think they have to look at 3 specific things. And this is one of the things that we teach all of our entrepreneur clients. And number 1 is, every day you've got to focus on sharpening your mindset. And specifically, when I talk about mindset, I'm not talking just about your attitude. I'm talking about your beliefs. Your attitude is definitely a part of that, but your habits formulate part of your mindset. So you've got to focus on empowering constructive beliefs, empowering constructive habits, which then leads to your skill set. And your skill set, if you're an entrepreneur, is really about focusing on, how am I going to generate more leads today? And how am I going to convert those leads into paying customers, today or this week? And that leads to the third part of the equation, that is your action set. And most entrepreneurs do not have a plan of action. What am I going to do today that is really my high income and high impact activities? What am I going to do this week that is going to move my business forward? And they're focusing a lot on the trivial many things versus the critical few things. And so once you start stepping back a little bit and saying, okay, what am I going to do every day to generate leads? What am I going to do every day to build my habits? What am I going to do every day to stay focused on the high impact, high income activities? Now we can start having a framework for success versus being in a state of repeating our habits and patterns over and over and over again.
Wow. And the mind, you're saying some things that I think people are like, whoa, the mind is such this, it's so intricate. It's got so much power. And, you talk about that, like how to, live that exceptional life, how to unlock the brain. Do you see that entrepreneurs, have a different thing, like say, hey, it just clicks for you, you're better at certain things than someone? Is there a difference in the mindset or the structure of the brain of an entrepreneur versus the average person?
I don't know that every brain is the same, but we all have different propensities. The good news and bad news scenarios with entrepreneurs is they tend to have a higher tolerance for risk taking, but they also tend to be more cognitively biased towards positivity. And they really don't know how to focus on what could go wrong and what would I or should I do about it. And so with the good news comes the challenging news. When we're in a state of chaos and unpredictability, like we are right now, a lot of entrepreneurs think that it's just hard work, and staying positive that helps them achieve success. But you also have to be playing defense when things are chaotic and uncertain, because anything can happen at any given moment, and it has. And so it's really this balance, between forward thinking and being on the offense, but also understanding how to play defense in these chaotic times. And that just requires what I call is slowing down so you could pick up speed. And what we want to do is be in a constant state of making progress that creates predictability. And so how do we create progress mentally? How do we create progress emotionally? How do we create progress in our business? And when you're a young entrepreneur, you think that it's, stick your foot on the gas and let's go. But as we all know, driving a car requires both the gas and the brakes used, properly.
Right. You can think that with some people right now in these times, it's almost like your circle too. How big is an influence is the people around you or the circle? Because when I talk to some of my colleagues, they're like, ask him about, business partners, or ask him about friends or family, because a lot of people are telling you, no, don't do this, or why do you do that? It's like that sphere of negativity. How important is the realm of what people ask you and the negativity out there around your business, especially when we're seeing these crazy times right now?
Well, your environment is really, really critical. Now, listen, every successful person has gone through the ups and downs of whether it's a recession, whether it's a downturn in the market of some kind, whether it's errors in judgment, strategies that didn't work. Now, the unsuccessful people who don't have experience tend to focus on what I call is the what if negative frame. So what if you fail? What if you're embarrassed? What if you're ashamed? What if you're ridiculed? What if you're judged? What if you make mistakes? That's what they focus on, and that's where they stay and live there. The experienced person looks at those things and says, okay, those are all possibilities. Now, what if I can get through that? What if I can create plans? What if I can minimize risk? What if I'm actually successful? So when you talk to successful people, they don't talk you away from doing something if there's a solution to avoid it. But unsuccessful or inexperienced people, they can't see the success because they've never achieved it. So your environment is critical. When I coach entrepreneurs, and I coach CEOs and young entrepreneurs, and I coach CEOs that have 1,000 employees, um, they're all looking at both sides of the equation all the time because both always exist. But they learn and they train their brain to focus on the outcome that they want versus the failure that is possible.
When you'd studied millionaires, you said that there's three secrets that millionaires have in common. Let's talk about that. Is that any correlation to what we're talking about right now?
Absolutely. I mean, absolutely. One of the secrets of all millionaires for sure is, they focus on how am I going to become a millionaire or a multimillionaire. So a lot of their attention and intention is about how they can and how they will. And the other part of it is they have a driving force, the motivation, and I like to consider the word motivation in a slightly different way than most people. If you break it down into motive for action, right? They have something within them, a why that is bigger than the possible failure, a why that's bigger than the stories, a why that's bigger than the excuses, a why that's driving them from within that pulls them towards their vision. And the people that, hope and pray that they become a millionaire and would like to become a millionaire, want to become a millionaire, their stories, reasons, and excuses in many cases are way bigger than their why. And so they don't have leverage on themselves. And everybody that is seeking to achieve financial success and abundance has the same type of fears, has the same type of uncertainties, has the same, possibly self-image challenges where they feel, am I really good enough or smart enough to achieve that? But the people that actually break free and break past those barriers are the ones with something within them that is bigger than the negative or the destructive thoughts or emotions. And that is just a common thread, between all millionaires.
Well, a lot of people are going to say, Chad, like, I'm not from money, or I was born here in this location, or I'm from this country, et cetera, et cetera. There's a lot of other hurdles that people go back to, but when you're talking, it's the mind. That's really what is the common thing from everyone. It isn't really about where you're from or how good your story is. It's about having um, that how am I, or how, they will accomplish certain things. It's like a drive that you mentioned.
Well, absolutely. Most people are focusing on why they can't, and people who achieve, business or financial success or any type of success are focused on how I will, and then they also have, as I mentioned, why I must, right? So why I must and how I will drives their behavior, drives their planning, drives their decision making, and it's really what I call is the razor's edge, right? Because both sides are always there. Failure is always there. That possibility is always there. Being embarrassed if you fail or make the wrong decisions is always there. Being judged is always there. Being ridiculed is always there. So if it's always there, then when we talk about, how do you manage your focus? How do you manage your intention? How do you manage the emotions of fear or embarrassment or being ridiculed or judged? How do you manage the fear of disappointing yourself or somebody that you love or loves you, your children, your spouse, your girlfriend, your boyfriend? Like, it's all about mindset and self-regulation, but it's all about emotional control also, because those emotions are there, and our brain is wired, biologically wired. 5 million years of evolution, right? Humans walking on Earth in one capacity or another. Um, um, our brain has evolved into being an organism that is focused on our survival, number one, and then avoidance of pain or discomfort, number two. That's the hierarchy of our brain. So if there's a potential chance that I might fail or might be disappointed, our brain puts on the brake, and then we lose the motive for action. So that's just the way every brain works. It's not like your brain and not mine. It's every brain works the same way. And so the key then is, what do people who feel those things do when that happens and when they feel that? And this is where the mental and emotional training comes in, right? If you think about what Navy SEALs have to learn, when they're underwater and the potential of being attacked happens, they have to learn how to stay calm even when their life is on the line. What does an astronaut need to do, when she's doing a spacewalk and something happens to one of the lines? She has to learn how to stay calm when her life is on the line. What does a CEO have to do? The exact same thing when their stock is on the line, when their company is on the line, when employees' lives are on the line. They have to learn how to remain calm. And in my newest book, Inner Size, I talk about there's an Einstein part of the brain and the Frankenstein part of the brain. And the Einstein part of the brain is always focusing on, the imagination of what it's going to be like when I achieve these goals, and what are the possibilities, and what new car am I going to get, new clothes am I going to get, and the money I'm going to give to the charities. And it's focusing on all the positive possibilities. But in the very next nanosecond, the Frankenstein part of the brain is going, yeah, but what if that doesn't work out? So you've got these competing neural circuits that, unless you learn that A, you have a brain, you're not your brain. B, these circuits are activating, on and off based on either external stimuli and the social cues that are happening outside of you, that your brain is processing and then turning on automatic circuits that either put the brakes on or put the gas pedal on. And if you don't realize that you have a brain and you have emotions and you have feelings, but you're not your brain, your emotions, or your feelings, then you're going to be a victim of the most powerful organism in the known universe that's just going to keep doing, what it's been doing for the last 3, 4, 5, 6, 10 years, 20 years. So this is where, we're at today. It's the place where we can deliberately and consciously train or retrain our brain for higher levels of performance. And that's really, the work that I do. That's where I work with, whether it's athletes, Navy SEALs, CEOs, entrepreneurs, homemakers. It's mental and emotional control will drive your behaviors, which will drive your success.
So when you mentioned the Einstein and the Frankenstein, is there, and maybe this is just a simple way for me to understand it, is there a way to make my Einstein side of my brain bigger and then the Frankenstein a lot smaller so I can have more dominating, energy over that negative? Or are they pretty much going to stay the same and it's like the back and forth tug of war that they have?
Great. So when we refer to the Frankenstein brain, part of that is the amygdala, and the amygdala is the emotional response center in the brain. Now, if, for example, you tend to get stressed out a lot, where you tend to have anxiety a lot, you tend to have uncertainty a lot, and you allow that to go unchecked, you actually are going to increase the size of the amygdala and the emotional response center around stress and anxiety and fear, etc. A trained person can actually reduce the size of the amygdala through meditation, through mindfulness, through becoming more aware of when that part of the brain is activated. And it specifically activates a part of our nervous system called the sympathetic nervous system, which is our fight, flight, or freeze reactive system to potential threat. And so through training, yes, you can lower the firing threshold, of that amygdala. And yes, through training, you can become more aware of it and then activate Einstein, which basically is the CEO, the executive director. It's part of our higher functioning circuit in our brain, a network in our brain, and that just takes some practice. Think about it this way. Let's say you're, out of shape and your muscles are weak. Can you strengthen your muscles? And I think everybody would say, well, yeah, of course I could strengthen my muscles and my organs. And we do that through, let's say, some kind of exercise. Well, through some inner sizes, we can strengthen our core neuromuscles. We can strengthen our core neuromuscles of focus. We can strengthen our core neuromuscles of awareness. We can strengthen our core belief systems. We can strengthen new empowering constructive habits instead of the disempowering ones that keep us stuck repeating the same patterns over and over again. And we've learned more about the human brain in the last 10 years than we've known in the history of our species. But most people have never learned even the basic fundamentals, of their brain. And so they are creatures of their existing habits. And everybody's 100% disciplined already to their current circumstances, to their current habits, to their current results. And they would keep repeating it over and over and over again instead of saying, stop, let me recalibrate my brain. Let me recalibrate my beliefs. Let me recalibrate my habits. Let me recalibrate my emotional control. And in doing so, now I have more personal power. Now I'm taking inspired action instead of being afraid of it. Now I'm able to become more aware so that I stop interrupting, myself when I'm being proactive, and I start taking more inspired action towards my goals and dreams every day. And that's the state that we're at right now. And I think, anybody that's listening to us is going to admit that they've probably never heard more about the human brain than they have in the last 5 or 10 years. And the reason is because we finally have a better user's manual for the most powerful biocomputer in the known universe.
Wow. And I think with me I'm following some of the things you're saying. I'm thinking of some of the conversation that I've had with business owners and other friends that are CEOs of companies out there. And when I start to think about what you're saying and people retraining their brain, and when people start to think a little bit more, you almost feel like there's a fine line of procrastination. And I know you talk a lot about that. So explain how procrastinating, to stop procrastinating, or if this can lead you towards procrastinating a little bit because you're waiting and you're learning and you're trying to see what's going on. But then how does that fall into it? Explain procrastinating a little bit to me.
Well, there's only 3 reasons we procrastinate, which is usually what most people don't ever think about. Is procrastination is a behavior. And so procrastination as a behavior, you ask yourself, why am I procrastinating? Right? Like, why am I doing it? And so reason number 1, unbeknownst to most people, is there's a very small percentage of the population that procrastinates because it's actually an arousal mechanism whereby the other part of the brain called the nucleus accumbens and insula is activated, as opposed to the fear center, which releases dopamine, which makes them feel good and actually heightens. Okay, and I'm not talking about sexual arousal. I'm talking about mental and emotional arousal. They actually get this jolt of dopamine by waiting till the last second. So that's one group, and that's about 3% of the population. The second reason people procrastinate is self-image. And so they have a self-image or self-esteem or self-worth that doesn't allow them to take action because the result of what they want to achieve is bigger than their current self-image allows them to take action around. It's almost like a homeless person that you said, but you can take action to do something better with your life, and they don't do it. And then the third reason is fear. So when we have something that we need to do, that there's a risk of what I mentioned earlier, failing, being embarrassed, ashamed, ridiculed, judged, disappointed, our amygdala, the Frankenstein part of the brain, kicks in and says, no, it's easier and safer for you to stay in your comfort zone, so procrastinate. Now, these are all mechanisms and triggers, Chad, that are happening beneath the average person's level of awareness. This is, you got to remember, this is, brain circuits and signals that are happening in billionths of seconds that are turning on or off, systems, almost like if you think about how, computer networks work, right? They're not like asking for permission. They are just triggering circuits on, off, yes, no, binary. And so when people procrastinate, it's going to fall into one of those 3 things are happening. In some cases, it's 2 out of 3. So unless you increase or augment self-image, self-worth, self-esteem, and unless you learn how to manage that emotion of fear, which is triggered automatically as a protective mechanism, you'll always procrastinate.
Wow. And it seems like right now, and it's a 2020, it's that crazy year. And I'm reading stuff all the time about, oh my gosh, can we get 2020 behind us, please? 2021, where are you? 2020's winning, all of those things that we're seeing. And it's like there's an energy around, the word 20, the number 2020, or what we're seeing, where I could see a lot more of the people buying into the procrastinating, the fear. We've created a lot of that too in our minds.
Of course. Of course. And like I said, the untrained person will always revert back to his highest level of training and habits. And if somebody is listening going, well, if you want to know what you've been trained to do, just look at your results the last 90 days. I have a bunch of clients that have had their best 90 days in the last 90 days, in the last 6 months during this pandemic, because they adapted and they shifted their mindset and their emotional control while they recalibrated their strategies and tactics to adapt to what's happening right now. People are still buying, not as many in some areas, but people are still buying. The question is, are they buying your product or service?
And then there's a lot of speakers and influencers and people that are listening now that, have pivoted, and they're like, well, I'm not able to do a big event or a big seminar. I'm going to the virtual world. And, they're struggling, right? Because they're not as comfortable with it. They haven't been trained in that realm. And, a lot of people are just kind of pausing. They're procrastinating of what to do. They're just waiting.
Their lack of knowledge or skill. There's only 4 things that will hold people back, right? Limiting beliefs, fears, lack of knowledge or skills, or self-image. And self-esteem. And so perfect example of, our industry is our friend Tony Robbins, right? He normally does live events. He had to shift earlier in the year from his UPW Unlimited Power weekend live event to a virtual event. Now, he's used to having 15 to 20,000 people in stadiums all over the world. And he had to shift. And he let go, I think I heard 100 or 125 people when he was still, doing the live event model. He shifted quickly to an online event model. And then he put in his first online event, he put 23,000 people onto a virtual event for 3 days. They connected, I heard, 5,000 Zoom accounts together. And they ended up selling over $30 million in back-end coaching, more than he normally does at a live event. So he adapted, he shifted, changed his strategy, recalibrated his team, hired consultants. He did whatever it took. And so, we've been doing, virtual events for the last 7 years. I don't do a lot of live events, in hotels or in convention centers. I've been doing them all online for the last 7 years. We've had as many as 150,000 people register for our Brainathon. And so, this to us was this was like a normal day in business for my company, because I shifted what I want to do and how I want to do it 8 years ago.
Yeah. Wow. I mean, and it shows that the shift when you did it 8 years ago wasn't a shift out of a catastrophe or a pandemic or anything. Like, you were just migrating, business practices, changing different platforms and maneuvering your business through cycle or whatever.
You got it. That's exactly right.
Some people look at it as it's a preparation, but then there's other people that do it out of necessity. And I think there's 2 ways to look at it, both successful, both work.
Both work. And a lot of people in the personal development space and even in the professional development space, they've moved their conferences, events, small, big, masterminds, whatever it is, to, an online experience. And we know that it works. I've got plenty of friends who have been making more money with virtual events than they were making with live events. So remember earlier I said that the number one skill that you can have is being an adaptationist? Well, being the number one skill right now is being an adaptationist, mentally, emotionally, physically, financially, strategically.
Well, John, what's the best way someone could train themselves if they're thinking, like, this talk has just been, my brain's kind of like, I feel like I've worked my brain out a little. I've exercised my brain now, and I'm starting to think about more things that I can do to help myself and help people and colleagues. what can they do to train, to learn? How can they follow you, stay more connected with you right now?
Sure. So I think one of the things that they could do is go to myneurogym.com. We have live trainings every Saturday. We have also a brainathon. So we have lots of live trainings. We have some master classes people can find on myneurogym.com. And they could learn how to train their brains better, how to take more control of their lives and gain more confidence and certainty. They can follow me on Instagram. I'm on there every day. I have a Facebook channel at John Assaraf is my fan page. I have dozens of hours of training on my YouTube channel. And so those are a few ways. And if somebody wants to dive deeper into Inner Size, the new science to unlock your brain's hidden power, they can pick up my book on Amazon. My newest best-selling book.
That's great. So, John, thank you for your time, giving me this little bit, answering questions. There's so many more things I want to ask. God, to go forever, but I really appreciate the listeners. I hope they took a lot of notes about the things you were talking about and how this deep dive into the brain really affects their life, their family, their business. It affects everything that you do every single day from the moment you wake up to when you go to bed. And, even while you're sleeping, your brain's still helping you. If you could, before I let you go, I've got to ask my top 3 questions. So are you ready?
Go ahead.
All right. First one is, what is your favorite movie?
Gladiator.
All right. Gladiator.
Yep.
Got it. Okay, next one. If you were to look down at the last song that was playing on your playlist this morning, what would that song be?
There wasn't one playing this morning, but yesterday it was probably the Bee Gees.
All right.
That ages me.
Okay, got it. Last one. What was your last pet's name?
Caesar.
Caesar. Oh, and look at that. The Gladiator. I mean, see, look at that. That's great. Well, John, thank you for your time today. I really appreciate you and connecting here today and with the audience. And everyone, make sure you're following John. Stay connected with him and some of the amazing work that he's doing. And I'll put the link down below so you guys can check out John's new best-selling book. Thanks, John.
Thanks, my friend. Have a great day. Bye, everyone.
Thank you for listening, and we hope you enjoyed today's episode. Don't forget to subscribe, and remember, friends, you are always on call.